Hi, I'm Karl Taylor. In this episode, we're going to look at this image that I created of our stunning model, Chelsea. Now, the shot that you can see here is most effective because of the makeup and the styling. That's what this shot and the series of shots that we completed on this shoot were all about. It was all about makeup and professional makeup. We actually created a series of classes with a professional makeup artist on how to make these amazing creations with makeup, which are so crucial to this type of beauty photography. I was really happy with this particular shot. The mood, the emotion, the feeling of the shot, the fact that actually we're not seeing the eyes in the shot and that the attention and the focus is all on the makeup and the eyelashes. But what was really important to me in this shot was the careful control of the shadows. Because what you'll notice if you look at this shot is there are quite strong, defined shadows, not strong shadows themselves, but very well defined shadows. You'll see the shadow that's coming off from the nose there, the shadow that's hitting down the collarbone and under the chin and neck there. They have a sharp edge characteristic to them. So that tells us that those shadows came from a point light source, from a very small light source. But you'll also notice that it looks like there's another type of lighting going on in there as well, a more three-dimensional, softer lighting. And what I've done here is I've actually combined two forms of lighting together so that I could create sharp, defined shadows, but not sharply defined shadows that were too dense or too black. I wanted them to be very light, very airy, and in keeping with the style of this shot. Chelsea executed some amazing poses here, this one in particular where she's just glancing down. And that lighting style that I applied with those weak but well-defined shadows works perfectly for me here because they're accentuating those long eyelashes because the eyelashes themselves are casting those well-defined shadows. So how was this shot created and how was it lit to achieve that result? Well, let's take a look at some behind the scenes shots here from the shoot itself. So the first one I'm going to show you, you can see I'm shooting there, you can see me with the camera, but directly above me you can see a large parabolic light. Well, it's actually a para 133, and that para 133 is the main soft light that is illuminating Chelsea. That's giving me that beautiful glowing light and sculpting light across her face and shoulders. But that is not the light that is creating the sharp shadows. You can see there is another light coming in on a boom arm, and it's coming in almost directly in line with the middle of the parabolic light. And that light is a very small flashlight, just a very small hard light. And it's that light that is creating the hard, sharp shadows. Now, if that light was used on its own, then of course we would just have high contrast, hard, sharp shadows, but all of the shadows would be really dark and really dense, and the whole image would take on a very much more ominous, oppressive feel. And that's of course not what I wanted. I wanted the shadows, but I wanted them to be light and airy. So I've used two light sources coming from the same axis here so that they can combine together really well and don't compete with each other by coming from different angles. The bigger, broader light is creating our sort of main wash of light and sculpting light, and then that small flashlight that's in the center on the boom arm is creating those hard shadows for me, whilst the bigger light fills in those shadows and takes away the darkness and the density from them. You'll also notice that below I have a tri-reflector in silver, and that tri-reflector is bouncing light up under the model's chin and into the face, and that's also helping soften down those darker or more hard shadows from the small flashlight that's in the shot. Now, if we go back to the main shot itself again, you can see now what I'm talking about. We've got this beautiful sort of voluminous three-dimensional lighting on the subject overall, creating really nice sculpting in the collarbone, the neck areas, the cheekbones, etc. but the small light is creating the sharp shadow from the lips, the sharp shadow from the eyelashes and the nose and the chin. But they are not becoming too dense and dark because of the larger, softer light that's being applied. We then also have a really lovely, light, pure white background. And to get that beautiful, even, pure white background was quite simple. We take two background lights, one here and one over here, and we're directing them into V-flats. And that's basically an L-shaped corner that we create with two polyboards or with V-flats that you can actually purchase, which are large, sort of 6 foot high boards, white boards, you create into a V shape and you direct a bare bulb light into them. That bare bulb light then bounces outwards, sideways into the V flat, forwards into the V flat, up. You'll notice that there's a lid on top of those V flats as well to stop extra light bouncing around my studio. It contains it all within the V flat. And those two bare bulb lights then create a much, much bigger light source from the V-flats, which then effectively become a very large modifier. And by placing one either side out of view, that large light source from either side bounces back onto my white wall background. If I didn't have that illumination there, then we would have quite a dark grey background by shooting at that distance. Now, of course, if you're working in a much, much smaller studio, you can still achieve this shoot quite easily because you can just move everything in a little bit closer. The great thing about using V-flat lighting like that for your background is that none of the light from your background lights is going to bounce back and hit your model if you keep those bare bulb lights contained in close enough inside the V-flat. So that's the lighting setup that you can see there. So it was a 4-light setup, 2 lights to create that beautiful uniform white on the background. The main softer light coming from the Para 133 to create that lovely sculpting light on the collarbone, neck and jawline and cheekbones, and then the small flash gun in the same symmetry as the Para inside the Para, directed straight at the model to create those harder, sharper shadows, but using the main softer light to make those shadows very weak in density so that the whole shot still feels light and airy. Now, if you'd like to see this shoot and many other portrait, beauty and fashion shots and all of the work and the details and the lighting that goes into those shoots, you can pick up thousands of tips over on visualeducation.com and learn a lot more in a lot greater depth. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Karl Taylor. Thanks very much for watching.